Hi, and welcome to another episode of Just Scare Us Already, where we take a look at past and present horror films and kind of give our critique about them. I'm your host, David, with my co host, Cheyenne. If you like what you hear, click subscribe and like us and continue to follow us. We have two new movies throwing their hats in the horror genre. We have the German slash US collab Cuckoo and the newest entry in the Alien franchise, Alien Romulus. Did these two new films succeed in scaring us, or did they just leave us wanting more? So, Cheyenne, tell us a little bit about Cuckoo.
Cuckoo was released on August 9th, 2024, directed and written by Tillman Singer, starring Hunter Schafer, Dan Stevens, Jan Bluthard, Martin Sokas, and Mila Liu. It follows a 17-year-old girl who is forced to move with her family to a German resort. She is not the only one surprised by the sudden change. Resort owner Herr Koenig seems off-put by her presence, and things continue to spiral down into a twisting maze of mysteries and horrors. The movie currently sits at a 78% critic score and a 60% audience score at the time of recording on Rotten Tomatoes.
All right, so what did you think of the film, Cheyenne?
So I thought the movie as a whole was decent. I liked how the movie began. I thought that the mystery going into it was intriguing. It starts off, not a big twist or a spoiler, but it starts off with a family, and obviously something weird is going on. The teen girl runs away, and the father calls someone. We don't know who at the moment. So I thought that that was a really good way of kind of like catching the attention right at the start. However, it did fail to continue to grasp my attention once more was revealed throughout the story.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. The beginning of the film um, was kind of interesting as they were setting up the story, the plot. However, overall, I thought the film Cuckoo was slow and extremely boring. I will say though that the last 15-20 minutes of the film was decent, um, but
Hmm.
was it worth sitting through the first hour and 20 minutes to get there? That's questionable. It had a lot of scenes that almost seemed like they were back in the 80s, and then but you were
Yeah.
reminded that it was present time because she had an iPhone and things like that. But it did kind of take on a 80s kind of vibe. Um, but a lot of the scenes I thought were kind of slow, and the pace of the film was slow. So for me, it didn't really build up to much. There were a couple of decent scenes where it was like, oh, that's kind of creepy, but not
Hmm.
enough for me to say, yeah, this was a really good movie.
Yeah. I thought the concept was kind of cool. The concept of like looping time, possible siren like creature, the weird German man who's kind of enthralling the whole thing and enticing this family and the parents who kind of seem like they don't realize fully what's going on. I thought that was kind of cool. I was curious to see where it was going to go the whole time. So it did keep my attention for the most part. But yeah, it was definitely much like Vivarium
Hmm.
with Jesse Eisenberg. It reminded me a lot of that movie, but I was happy that it at least went in a different direction than that one.
I don't know if it really went in a different direction. I mean, Vivarium was, I mean, it was pretty much the same plot. I don't think I'm giving anything away by the title of the film Cuckoo, which basically is the
Mm-hmm.
premise of a cuckoo bird will lay its egg in the nest of another bird to raise it, and then eventually once that hatchling develops, because it's bigger than most other birds, it winds up killing the other birds in the nest. So it to me was the same premise. It also left me with the same questions. Why was this doctor guy so interested in preserving this species? We can only assume that there's some type of alien or something. They never really dive down into, is this some type of ancient German creature that lives in the woods somewhere, or
Mm-hmm.
is it some type of alien species? So it left a lot of questions. It left me with a lot of questions coming out. I was just like, really? What was with that?
I guess. I don't think it was as. I think it was easier to follow than Vivarium. Vivarium goes on a really strange, weird route.
Hmm.
So I did think that this one was at least easier to follow. I liked it better than Long Legs, which we talked about a few weeks ago. How vehemently I hated that movie,
Which one?
but I thought that this one was Long Legs
Okay.
by the same production company, Neon.
Hmm.
I thought this one was better. It was easier to follow. It wasn't as weird. I thought Dan Stevens did the best in the movie. I thought that Hunter Schafer was pretty good. I liked her character being kind of like the voice of reason for the whole thing. She was not scared to call out how strange everything was. But at times, I thought she was a little too awkward and weird.
Hmm.
But then at the same time, trying to be like headstrong and rebellious. And I just felt like the personality kind of clashed a little bit.
Hmm.
So I don't know if that was the writing, the directing, or what. But yeah, I thought she did fine. And then the ending was predictable and cliche, but all in all, I thought it's a decent movie for the most part.
Okay. Yeah, I would disagree as far as saying it was decent. I know it got high ratings on Rotten Tomato. The audience rating was also pretty high for this one. Although when I read some of the reviews on Rotten Tomato, it seemed like a lot of audiences felt the same way I did, that the movie was boring and
Hmm.
left a lot of open ended questions. I think Cuckoo tried to be unique, but it tried it with a premise that, albeit strange, felt not fully vetted and rushed for an ending. So I would definitely suggest waiting on streaming for this one.
Yeah, yeah, definitely streaming. I would not say that this is a movie theater watch, but I would say if it's on streaming, go ahead and give it a watch. Versus like Long Legs, I would say don't bother to even watch that one in streaming.
Hmm.
But this one, I would say it's worth it if you're into that kind of like weird genre bending horror movie that introduces somewhat of a new idea.
Okay. So what's your overall rating?
I'm gonna give it a meh, a sideways thumbs up, meh.
All right. And I'm definitely gonna have to go thumbs down. I'm gonna go. Blech. I did not like it. So yeah, definitely thumbs down for me. And I know people who are watching our webcast are probably saying, "Does this guy like anything?" I'm a hard person to please. Sorry to say. I mean, I know what I like and I know what I don't like, and this one I know I didn't like. So
And maybe that's for the best. That means when you do give a movie at least even a meh, it's something worth watching.
true, very
But
true. All right.
let's move on to Alien
All right.
Romulus.
So tell us a little bit about Alien Romulus.
This one was directed by Fede Alvarez, starring Kaylee Spaney, Savid Johnson, and Archie Renault. It's set 20 years after the events of the original 1979 Alien. A group of young space colonizers scavenge through the deep ends of a derelict space station in the hopes of finding cryopods to escape their mining planet. While searching, they come face to face with the most terrifying life form in the universe. This movie currently has a 81% critic score and an 86% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. So, what did you think of this one?
Okay. Well, I'm going to be honest and
Because I
upfront.
know last week on your top five, Aliens was one of your top five movies.
Very true. Very true. And I will be honest, is I felt like maybe I missed some things the first time I watched it. So I
Mm-hmm.
watched it again the next day. When I was,
Oh,
because, sometimes when there's a movie that you're anxious to see, sometimes you don't really catch everything. You're just excited to see what's going to happen. So I gave it another
yeah.
shot the next day just to see if there were things I missed. And I'm gonna say it was not a horrible movie. And I think it did well enough to be called a good, entry in the Alien franchise. I think it was
What?
definitely better than Alien 3, Alien Resurrection, and the two horrible Alien versus Predator movies. I think this one, it kept to the original and the Aliens films, where the pace was good. The director did a good job of getting to the action quickly, and
Hmm.
it felt like I was watching an alien movie. But again, I wouldn't say it's great. I wouldn't say it's one of the best. What did you think?
I thought it was okay. I did not like the character building as much as the original. I don't know what it is about how the original did it, but I cared about all those characters
Hmm.
really quickly. But this one, I cared about maybe two or three of them, and then kind of was like, the rest of you, I don't care what happens at all. So once the action started, once the action started rattling up, I was just kind of like, okay, cool. I'm happy he died. Wish it was kind of in a different way, but it is what it is.
Hmm.
I liked Andy and Rain's relationship, though. I thought it was really cute. I wish that they had done a little bit more with Andy before he shifted in character.
Hmm.
But I did think that the world building was done well. This one not being set on Earth and being 20 years in the future from aliens,
Hmm.
I thought they did a pretty good job of kind of setting you into that world without over explaining everything,
Hmm.
but also not making it too confusing for everyone in the audience to kind of keep up with. So overall, but I do agree. I thought that the action set off pretty quickly, which was really nice, but then it kind of slowed down its pace after that.
Hmm.
And the action scenes they were never truly terrifying to me. I thought that they were okay. There was never really a part where I was like tense.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't think there's a single part where I was really tense in the whole movie, except maybe towards the end.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. It definitely
yeah.
didn't have those moments like the original Alien, where you got they were looking around, and all of a sudden you get this eerie feeling, and then there's the
Hmm.
alien standing behind you. It definitely didn't have many scenes like that. I thought the action, again, like I said, was well paced. As far as the casting, I wasn't too crazy about the very young cast, and I think maybe that might be a reason why uh, we didn't feel too much for some of the cast. And I mean, for a cast of six people, it doesn't give you a lot to work with. But I agree, the character building wasn't that good. So yeah, there were a couple of characters I was just like, okay, whatever, you died, too bad. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely didn't feel too much for a lot of the characters. I thought they did a very, very poor job with the CGI effects, bringing the actor Ian Holm, who died back in 2020, bringing him back to life as the android Rook. As you know, in the original Aliens, he was the android Ash. So
Hmm.
they basically said, okay, yeah, here's another version of that android, and I figured they used the name Rook to kind of play off of the android in Aliens, whose name was Bishop. So
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm not crazy about bringing dead people to life in films nowadays, especially when you're
Yeah.
going to use them for such a lengthy scene. They did it in Star Wars with Princess Leia. They did it and with the general in Star Wars. That one part where he's standing next to Darth Vader. Those were brief. They were
Hmm.
quick. Okay, fine. But to use them in long scenes where he's giving these long uh, speeches, I don't think worked. It looked fake. It looked bad. I would have preferred. I
Yeah.
would have preferred if they would have brought back Michael Fassbender as who played David and Prometheus
Yeah.
and Alien Covenant. Let him show up as the android. It wouldn't be far fetched because he was one of the first androids that Wayland created.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I definitely didn't like that.
Yeah, I didn't know he died. I didn't realize that when I was watching the movie. So
Hmm.
I thought they just de-aged him. But
Hmm.
yeah, the whole time I was like, this looks so bad. And I just kept wondering, like, why not bring Michael Fassbender, who I know is older than he was and he did Prometheus, but I mean that man does not age that much. So like it would have been at least a little bit more believable because again, I didn't know that Ian Holmes died at the time.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
I it did not to have him that long. I agree. I think that they should have either had him in it briefly and had David, interface with him or whatever, and then kind of become melded with his mind,
Hmm.
or not David, sorry, Andy, or have him only briefly in it, or have someone else do it because it was distractingly bad
Yeah.
and obvious that it was some sort of CGI thing.
Yeah. I mean, I even would have accepted, uh, maybe having a totally new android, a new person playing a totally new
Yeah.
android. That wouldn't be unbelievable. It's 20 years later, so I would hope they have a new design, you know. So yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think it was. They tried to give a nod to the original, I guess, but I don't think it was needed, nor was it worth it.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and then there were a lot of questions. I mean, that's the biggest problem with trying to jump into a story in the middle. Um,
Mhm.
for instance, and this I don't think would be a spoiler alert, but we will say spoiler alert just for those who want to mute me at this moment. But how do they get the alien face grabbers? The alien that Ripley blew out of the air dock, an alien, was a normal alien. It wasn't a queen, and only queens can
Mhm.
lay eggs. So how did they get all those face grabbers? I guess
Didn't they show something at the beginning?
no. They found the original alien that Ripley ejected from the ship. It had
Mhm.
somehow went into some type of hibernation state and became encased in some type of mineral ore. They found it, and when they cut
Uh-huh.
it open, he came back. He came out of hibernation. He was still alive. So
Mm.
it's like, okay, he's still alive. They say he wreaked havoc on the space station. They finally stopped him. So I guess we're left to assume they did some type of cloning or something, but that wouldn't
Uh-huh.
make too much sense because you need an egg to develop the face grabber who impregnates you with the seed
Yeah.
that turns into the alien. So I guess we're just left to assume maybe there's some other cycle of life that they go through that we're not aware of.
I'm Yeah, I guess I'm assuming it's either cloning or something to do with the DNA that they show later
Hmm.
on.
Yeah, yeah, and
So,
one of the other things I would point out would be that there are other mature aliens on the ship, and not
a
once
lot of
and not
xenomorphs.
once did they react to these people turning the ship back on. They're just like, oh, we'll wait here and see what happens.
Yeah. No, I was wondering the same thing towards the end. Spoiler alert. Obviously, I guess we're just going to continue the spoiler alert through, but yeah, they show a ton of xenomorphs,
Hmm.
and I don't think that their aging process is that quickly. But yeah, when these people are banging through the ship for a good maybe half hour at least, none of them come out to see them. None of them, like, because they explained the face huggers
Hmm.
and then why they didn't come out, but like all these xenomorphs, where were they? What was happening?
Yeah, yeah, they're
It didn't make any
they're in a
sense.
team meeting.
The only thing I could think is that, well, no, because that still would have left like half an hour. Because I was gonna say maybe when, because it was really cold on the ship when they got there,
Hmm.
but they turned the oxygen on and stuff pretty
Yeah,
quickly.
and
But maybe it was still really cold. No, because
no,
then when the girls got in there, yeah, no, it doesn't make any sense.
yeah, and I don't think they care if it's cold. I mean, apparently they don't need food or oxygen to live. So for them,
Well, no, but remember they used it on the tail of the face hugger,
yeah, yeah,
so some
you
sort
could
of
freeze,
extreme
yeah,
cold.
you could freeze the face huggers or put them in some type of cryostasis, but I don't think the aliens, the xenomorphs, were in that type of state. So go figure.
Hmm.
That's minor, but it's there. And I just have to
Yeah,
ask, and I kept asking myself during the movie, if if the corporation Wayland is so hell bent on developing these aliens and finding this formula for improving humans, why would they have just let that space station go? You would think they would have went back and tried to retrieve something, some data, something from there, not just leave
yeah,
it to go crash into the rings of the planet that they were on.
yeah. I really wish that they had, instead of having this be like some kids trying to escape, I kind of wish it had been like a team that Waylon sent
Hmm.
that had no knowledge of what was going on, who was clearly being used,
Hmm.
but this time specifically for grabbing this. I think that would have gone a little bit better for the storyline wise because A, we would have had characters had a purpose.
Hmm.
I felt like a lot of these characters were kind of, just kind of bapping around trying to get wherever they needed to get to go
Hmm. Yeah, I think
versus like having to be there and having a reason to be there, like needing to do this
right.
would have been a little bit better.
Yeah, I think they were trying to develop a new Ripley, so to speak. With
Yeah.
this character Rain. I think they were definitely trying to, and they still could have did that even with if they went a different direction, like you said, send a team up there
Uh-huh.
to try to retrieve the data or that liquid stuff that they created. I just found it
Mhm.
hard that to believe that they would have just let that go. They're like, oh well,
Yeah.
it's a space station. We'll just let it
Is what
go.
it is.
Yeah, yeah. We'll just let that data
Yeah, is
go.
what it is, happens all time.
Exactly. And then if you think about the timeline between Alien and Aliens, it's 57 years. Ripley's been asleep for 57 years. And when they finally wake her up, they tell her that on that planet, LZ 426, that they landed on in the original Alien, that there have been terraformers there for 20 years. So you think about it,
Oh.
they purposely went back to LV 426 to try to harvest that alien stuff.
Uh-huh.
So that's why I said I find it hard to believe they just would have let that space station go without
Yeah, is
trying to
it that
retrieve
dedicated to the
anything.
idea?
Yeah. So I mean,
Yeah. No, I agree.
overall, I thought Alien Romulus brought nothing new to the franchise. It felt more like a film based on one of the many video games that were based on the Alien
Yeah.
movie. And funny thing, I don't know if you noticed it, but when near the beginning, when Rain and Andy go to meet the other guys to talk about going and getting the cryo tubes from this ship, Andy is sitting
Uh-huh.
down playing a video game, and the video game
Mhm.
is the old Atari Alien game.
I did not notice. I knew it was an Atari game. I just didn't know it was what game.
Yeah,
That's
so
funny. That's a cute little
it's like
nod.
wow, that's crazy.
That's
And
cute.
there's also
No, I didn't catch
and there's
that.
also at the beginning when Rain and Andy are sitting at the table talking, and there's that little bird thing that dips and goes up and down, up and down.
Mhm.
That's also in the opening scene of, I believe it's Alien or Aliens, but when their
I think it's
cryo
Alien.
yeah, when their cryo tanks or chambers are turning on, it pans across the
Uh
table
huh.
and you see the little thing dipping, bobbing up and down. So
That's
there's some
cute.
Easter eggs in there, but yeah, I just
I
felt.
thought that
Go ahead.
I thought that the movie was, yeah, it definitely felt like it was kind of just set within the world and they wanted to explore it. Personally, I think that this was left the way it was because they wanted to either just have another edition or someone had proposed an alien movie and they bought it and said, let's throw in xenomorphs.
Hmm.
Um, and so they wanted to have it as an option to end it here if it didn't make any money and make it just a one off, or to continue on with the future of Rain and anyone else, any of the survivors,
Hmm.
in case it didn't flop. Is how it felt towards the end. Was that they kind of didn't know where to end it,
Yeah.
and we're like, well, let's leave it open so that if it makes money, we can milk it.
Yeah, I think the filmmakers are definitely trying to appeal to a and renew the franchise for a younger audience. However, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
sure if this film achieved that. I think it achieved bringing back the nostalgia of the Alien films,
Yeah.
but they brought it back with a
Well,
lackluster film that will probably be quickly forgotten in a couple of weeks. You know.
yeah. I don't even know if I could say they brought back the nostalgia because honestly, when they finally showcased the xenomorphs, it felt very empty.
Mm.
It kept cutting to flash face face
Hmm.
scenes or like close ups of the alien that felt like they were reused continuously. And it just, I don't know, to me, like when the showcased the xenomorph finally, I was just kind of like, okay. And not like I was expecting anything new,
Right.
but I was just expecting it to be terrifying, I guess. And it really wasn't. It just felt very empty. I don't know how to explain it. It just didn't feel like it did anything for me.
Yeah, I mean it of course, yeah, there's no surprise. I mean, after seven, no, four, five, six, seven, eight, after eight Alien films, this being the ninth, yeah, there's not much more you can do to surprise us, unless you totally make it a
Yeah.
totally new type of alien creature, which they try to, but anyway, I won't go there.
Which did make me go, what?
Yeah, I won't go there. But I still thought though that it was up there with Aliens as far as action. It wasn't a whole lot of
Uh-huh.
shooting and whatnot like Aliens, but I thought it was fast paced enough where it kept me entertained. Yeah, there were some slow
Mm-hmm.
parts, but uh, when you look at the original Alien, I mean, the first 20-25 minutes of the original Aliens is pretty slow. Um,
That's true.
so but they're building up a story, so I guess you kind of have to go through the progression. But yeah, overall though, I actually give it a thumbs up. I think it was a good
Wow.
movie. So yeah, I would give it a thumbs up.
I would give it a meh again. I
Okay.
think it's worth catching it in streaming for sure. I would say if there's nothing else in theaters that you're interested in, it's something that like isn't, you wouldn't be mad that you spent money on the ticket. But I would personally say wait for streaming. I do hope that they continue though. I'm kind of interested to see where they could go with the storyline with how the ending was.
Mhm.
I would personally be a little curious to see how they could expand on this new side quest or storyline of the Alien franchise.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was a good
Yeah.
action film. It wasn't scary, so it did not scare us. But
No.
entertaining. It was a decent nod to the original Alien and Aliens movie. Again, better than Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection. So yeah, I definitely liked it. So
Well,
there,
good. I'm happy to
there's
hear
a
that.
light.
So there we go.
There's a light.
Well, let us know. Let us know down below or in the comments what you thought of our double feature and what you thought of these two movies. Again, this is just our opinion. Clearly, we both differ on both the movies that we talked about today. Did you think that Cuckoo is the best subversion of horror genre, like people have been toting? Do you think that the soft reboot of the Alien series should continue? With fall quickly approaching, we should be getting a lot more horror movies. So hopefully, we can find something that will scare us already.